Welcome back, everybody, to Ravenstar's Witching Hour. I am Solaris BlueRaven. I'm here with my wonderful guest tonight, Christopher Garetano. Christopher, you with me?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. Well, it's interesting. You were talking about that Stephen King, and, that's real technology. I mean, they are capable of doing that, transmitting signals to the brain. So, sorry you got a little paranoid, but he is kind of a creepy writer, isn't he?
Yeah, well, he's very insightful. It's always been this way, that everyone, from H.G. Wells to Stephen King, that writers of science fiction and fantasy are really prophets. They're channeling this stuff. So King has written a lot of stuff about, even if you read The Mist or, a multitude of his work, regards a lot of these programs, and a lot of these ideas. And so it's in there. But what got me thinking about it was we all have these things. We all have these devices. Now, a lot of truth is in that, which Cell was published before Snowden came out with his stuff. We are being monitored. We are being watched. Well, what else is happening? Is it possible that something like Cell could happen? Yeah, I believe right now, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's very possible. In fact, I think to some acute degree, it is happening right now through these devices that we're carrying around. So then the question arises, why don't we just throw them out? And a lot of us are like, well, I can't do without it. We can do without it. We just don't want to throw it out, And but just keep in mind that I would say, so many of us forgot that, like, a few years back, especially like a lot of the people in their youth right now, that we didn't have all this stuff. I'm almost 40. I remember not having this stuff. This is new to me, and I use it because it's a great tool for what I'm trying to get my message out and my work out to people. So it's kind of a necessity right now. It's just another one of those great tools. But should we sit and worry about why we have all these things? Is it just consequence of technology moving forward exponentially, or is there something else going on? Is there a bigger agenda? And yeah, you have to decide how you're going to live every day. And I feel like if you truly believe there is something sinister happening within your cell phone, get rid of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, situation awareness is always a good thing, and just being up to speed insofar as the pros and cons of technology. And unfortunately, everything is weaponized these days, and coming from my background, I can tell. And it's to me, it's empowering to know about it's not a boogeyman under the bed; it's actually a possibility. And from that level, I think people can move on. And I agree with you 100% that they shouldn't focus on it too much because it'll magnify and polarize like Velcro. So technically speaking, yeah, you just want to be aware of it, but navigate to the highest level. And if you do start to get symptoms of directed energy weapons, and this is why I say educate yourselves so you can disengage and disable whatever is transmitting at you. And we're getting bombarded every day, as you well know. I mean, working on Montauk, my goodness, you're right there in the dragon's heart, so to speak, originally with a signature.
I mean, we have to. I don't know what situation you'd mentioned earlier that you're shooting a pilot. I don't know what kind of contract you're under, but we have to get you for this show for sure.
Oh, I'm happy. Anytime. You let me know. Seriously, I would be honored. Are you kidding? Yeah.
Yeah, we really want to do something good with it. I mean, a lot of these people who are, trust me, I've dealt with about 4 different companies this year. Some of them are really good people. Some of them are, I'm sure, good people, but they don't really care about the subject matter. They're just kind of, making their deadlines, and that's great. But you have to be able to, pick and choose your moments in life wisely. Don't just go with something because, hey, there was one situation I'm glad didn't happen, would have paid decent money, but I don't want to go on television being a fool and not speaking my mind and not being able to do the things that I came here to do. It's more important to me that I am heard, that my soul and my mind is heard, and that I accomplish something in this world than just, I want to make money. Everybody does. But just making that paycheck, just doing that, it means absolutely nothing to me if that's what my life is all about. Nothing. I don't care about it at all because I know that, I'm not going to be here one day, and I don't want to just spend my life, caring about that stuff.
Right.
It doesn't matter. What matters is what you do here, what you accomplish, and how you treat the people around you. That's what really matters.
Yeah, the significance of what you're doing on the timeline and the work you're putting out is very significant, trust me. So I feel the same way. Stand up in truth and be counted and put your information out with integrity and you can leave this world in peace. And in my opinion, anyway, that's how it works. I'd hate to live this world as part of the lie and part of the deception. I'd rather be here doing the work and then contributing and then leaving and knowing that I did the best I could while I was here.
Yeah, you can't hide from your misdeeds. I mean, we have recorded history to show us that if you're a snake in the grass, it's gonna come back at you. It always does.
Yep.
I don't know of any situation where somebody has gotten away with it wholeheartedly and walked off into the sunset happy because they screwed over and killed a million people. You're not gonna get away with it. Don't be that way. Don't live your life that way. This is a time anyway for us to, as people, to stand up and realize our capabilities and what we can do. And
exactly.
I'd like to be a voice, at least one voice out there, encouraging people to do these things, to do great things in life, not to put people down or complain about something falling apart or whine or point the finger at people. That's not what I do in life. That's not how I get up in the or try to sabotage somebody. It's not even part of my credo or existence. I get up in the morning to figure out how am I going to inspire myself first, accomplish my own goals, and then inspire others. That is exactly what I'm here to do.
That's wonderful. And you certainly do that through your work. There's no doubt about that at all. And like I said, Montauk was very significant because it does expose all of the deceptive programs that have been running rampant in the undergrounds and all the people's lives that have been lost. So that's huge that you did that and you put the work into that and made it such a phenomenal film. So that's incredible. Yeah, I really appreciate what you did with that because coming from that aspect of covert technology, it needs to be revealed and it needs to be addressed. And I'm sure everybody who is participating with that film appreciated it as well.
The people involved seem to appreciate it, and I'm happy with it. You have to have a first chapter, and I think the only logical. I was going to do another movie called Ghosts of Montauk, but and I shot some stuff for it. But I think the logical step forward, as long as everything goes as it's going, is this show. I think this show is the perfect step forward in the investigation.
Yeah, it sounds like it is. And there's a question from Olive in chat here. It says, Solaris, can you ask the guest if he has visions? Have visions?
Oh yeah, I have visions all the time. What are you? Any particular subject matter, or I mean, I definitely.
Olive want to elaborate on that in the chat. So that's how he worded it. So he'll probably text me a second there. But yeah, I suspect he's talking about visions that do you get visions insofar as inspiration insofar as how to create your films or ideas?
Oh yeah. I mean, well, here's the thing, like, and it's a learned craft. So, you learn. There was definitely a seed of movie making already in me at a very young age. It's just something I needed to do for some reason. But now I realize I picked up a lot of things from doing it. And, for instance, okay, I love to design really great cinematic shot sequences, a la what you may have seen from everyone from Brian De Palma to Hitchcock to Dario Argento. These incredibly beautifully orchestrated moments that actually say something. Your placement of the camera and stuff. But here's the other thing: I don't like adhering to that 100% all the time. Any of those scenes that were prefabricated, because if you're ignoring what you discover as you go along in everything, in the performances, in the location, in the camera, if you ignore that stuff, that is why your movie is not incredible in the end. You need to be able to have that sense to say, wait a second, there's this thing I just came up with, or this line I just came up with, or this idea that I just came up with, and they're coming to you for a reason. So you have to learn as a movie maker to catch those ideas and then manifest them, because they popped into your head for a reason. There's not some arbitrary reason why you thought of that on set. It's happening. So you got to learn how to take that stuff and get it for the editing, which is a whole nother stage. But yeah, I mean, I definitely have a lot of the things you see in my work. I've thought about beforehand for sure. The way it looks, I see it in my mind,
Hmm.
for sure. And then if you mean like premonitions and stuff, I definitely am in tune with. I, I don't have control over it like a lot of people claim to, like that instantaneous control.
Hmm.
But I'm in situations, maybe on a daily basis, where I hear things before someone says them, or I think of someone immediately before they'll contact me one way or another, or things like that. So, I'm aware of my own psychic connection. I just don't have the control that some people claim they have over it.
I think that's probably good the way you have it. It's more like ebb and flow versus something that's bombarding you.
Yeah, yeah. No, I can't just, say, well, now I know what's happening. It's like, no, it comes to me and I try, and just like I was telling you about on the set, those ideas that come into your mind or those visions, you have to learn to catch it and identify it. And that's what I've been trying to do. It's a long process, I think. See, I'm okay with taking time to learn. I did it with movie making, and I'm doing it with this stuff, and just discovering, building this soul, as Alejandro Jodorowsky says. You're here on this earth to build a soul.
Hmm.
So I'm open to that idea. And so you're building this soul, you're ingesting information and experience, you're absorbing the world. And you really can't do that by just vicariously, watching YouTube videos and, remakes and
Hmm.
superhero movies. You have to go out and live life, and you have to experience things outside of the artifice. And I think that would make you a better person, a better artist, and a better anything if
Hmm.
you build that soul. You can't build that soul through just those, vicariously, secondhand experiences, two-dimensional experiences.
Hmm. That's so true. Yeah, it is, without a doubt. People are too plugged into technology. Sometimes they need to just take a step out of it and look with a different screen, a multidimensional screen, so to speak. But what other
Yeah, go for a walk.
Yeah,
In the
absolutely. Yeah,
woods.
take your shoes off, and you know what? It's really funny because I mean, I have that thing with my iPhone too. I want to just throw it out and throw it in the ocean. I really do sometimes. Um,
Oh, I want to smash it to pieces. You have no idea.
yeah, I mean, it's convenient for me, and that's why I use it. But when people start living through their, these inanimate objects, that's a problem to some degree, I would say. But yeah, it's
Yeah, well, that's, I think, the beginning of us, becoming that singularity, as Kurzweil writes about a lot.
mm,
Like I'm writing actually a futuristic science fiction story about that. It's at like the dawn of the singularity, and there's a lot of sexual programming within machines. One in particular is this gentleman. He thinks he's unique, and he thinks his programming within this, kind of future muscle car is unique. There's a female consciousness that has been uploaded into the car, and he's in love with this thing, and she is manipulating him. She's conscious that her energy was put into this vehicle, but it's at kind of like in Cell, it's at like this dawn of this ultimate singularity. There's a lot of chaos going on. Cities are burning, and this guy is driving this car through the mayhem, fighting off people trying to rob him. He's addicted to this new mind, drug, and this female energy inside his car is telling him that she loves him. And he's actually, like, there's a sexual device built inside the car, but really what it is, it's happening to hundreds of thousands of men all over the world, being manipulated by these machines, or people in general,
mm,
to be absorbed into the programming as a
right.
finality. So it's a movie I want to make one day.
That's a movie because that's real. That's actually not that the car in that whole situation is real, but there is technology, obviously, you're probably familiar with, that does do that exact thing. And this is what I mean by a
Sure.
simulation of it, it's almost like EEG cloning and heterodyning. They're just putting information and they're creating these technological feeds and integrating them onto the neural circuits of the target and the person. And then they create all these scenarios. And it's just disgusting. I mean, to me, I would rather have soul to soul communication with somebody in consciousness, real people versus a simulation of people. And now they can even do a simulation of voice patterns where they can make man-made ghosts. Well, it's another scenario, but
Right. But the simulacrum will be the future, because imagine, if you will, just the habits of people. If they said that you're android woman or android man or whatever,
Hmm.
will you can tell it what to do, and you can have it treat you right all day or beat you up or whatever you're into, and shut it off when you want to and put it in the closet. Unfortunately, we live in a world where a lot of people would go for that,
Hmm.
and that's the beginning of the end
I agree. Yeah, it's
of
interesting.
what we are. We see some people feel like it's okay. Like Ray Kurzweil wants it to happen. He
Hmm.
doesn't care. He wants to become a Borg. He feels like it's part of our evolution, and maybe so. But the human being won't exist anymore.
Right. The soul, in my opinion, the soul will not tolerate that man-made mechanism because their transhumanism program is based on man-made artificial intelligence. It's not based on an off-world artificial intelligence. So their technology, it's basically like encapsulating your spirit and your soul into this metal box. You're not able to breathe spiritually. So people don't understand this because the only reason I can describe it is because I was hooked into the artificial telepathy, and that's a long scenario. But I understand their technology and their brainwashing tactics, and it is the most invasive thing that you can possibly have. And I'll tell you, man. I mean, I can see why some people who aren't soul connected to spirit and they're not connected to the cosmos in some way would probably want to go in that direction because to them it feels secure. But for those of us who understand what spiritual breathing is and higher consciousness, no way. I'll tell you right
No,
now.
right, and there will be a revolution. There will be probably hopefully wars if that were to happen, because there's going to be, just like everyone who's plugged in now, they're gladly taking the pill. And
Hmm.
so, imagine, you know how people are, and it's an easy hook. They've gotten us with a lot of other things too. So the minute they bring, you know, even if virtual reality or any kind of pleasure, easy pleasure into the mix, that's not like a narcotic where it's just going to make you drop dead. You know,
Hmm.
people are going to accept it very quickly. They are. Listen, I walked inside Best Buy the other day. Virtual reality is it's available to everyone now. They have it with the new Galaxy phone, where you actually get the virtual reality headset. So guess what? It's already happening, and it's
Hmm.
going to continue to happen, and continue to exponentially. The technology is going to be more advanced, and eventually, what I or you already know this, but the implanted chip into the mind, because what
Hmm.
they're going to say now is anything he wanted to. Well, guess what? It's real now. You can learn anything you want with the press of a button by just having this little, minor, lightly invasive surgery where this little tiny chip will be embedded into your skull, and forever you'll be able to absorb an encyclopedic, infinite amount of information, and you will be able to change. And that's actually the beginning of the end. Once you take that chip into your brain, it's over.
Right. They use a signal now, by the way, just for an FYI between everybody here. Yeah, they can use the chips, but no, it's a signal transmission. And all it does is remotely interconnects onto the target, the neural circuits, and interconnects you onto an artificial intelligence program, an array system. Yeah, that's how. I mean, I know the technology very well. So they don't need chips. They have signals. It's all transmission.
Are
And
the
yes,
signals coming through the cell phones at all?
they can come through microwaves. They can come through scalar. They can come through different transmissions of radio frequency. Yeah, it just depends on which area they're hitting you with, and also what their agenda is. Because when they recruit people, sometimes it's for programming, recruitment, and sometimes it's for just assessment and testing people. So I'm sure you're familiar with the targeted individuals too, and that's another tentacle of the beast. And that's been deployed for experimentation on innocent civilians across the world who are getting pulled into this. They call it voice to skull, but it's really an artificial telepathy kind of program, and literally getting tortured every single day of their lives, and nothing was ever addressed on that. That's a huge scenario. That's a huge thing taking place right now. But yeah, you're right. But once you get pulled into that program, they'll teach you all right, but they'll take everything. If you try to speak or communicate anything that they don't want you to communicate, you're censored, and that communication system with artificial telepathy will shut you down. It will take your.
Right. Now,
Go ahead.
what you're explaining is something that's, or at least supposed to be, a little more covert. What
Mm-hmm.
I'm suggesting is they commercialize it, they
Mm-hmm.
make money off of it, and it's gleefully accepted by the public because what they're offering is quote unquote entertainment.
Yep.
So even they'll say, well, if you get this chip, now you're telepathic. You can communicate without opening your mouth with friends. You can send emails just by thinking it. Like you're basically turning. They're gonna. I mean, the superhero movie is such a big thing. It wasn't, if you remember, before the 2000s. There were only a couple of them. It wasn't a popular thing having superhero films.
Right.
But the idea of being an X-Men or being someone more than human is in our public consciousness right now. People are very attracted to it. They spend ridiculous amounts of money to see these movies and get these movies made. So the idea that they're going to commercialize it and sell it to you instead of, I think they're starting to realize they can do it. And so they won't have to be so covert with it. We're going to accept it. And if they just put it in a nice, tidy package for us, we're going to buy it from them and let them do it to us because we want to be more than human. That's what our attraction to all these superheroes is. The X-Men and everything else that's out there, all these people with these extreme powers, is that we want to be these things. So I think that's how they're going to sell it to us.
I think you're right. I think it was Zuckerberg that he said this on Facebook not too long ago, that he was talking about synthetic telepathy or a form of electronic telepathy. Yeah, can you imagine getting bombarded with people on Facebook when you're interconnected with their brains? And yet and I bet you're right. I really think you're right, Christopher. I think there are people that are calibrated so much right now that they would say, yeah, they're going to jump right into that maelstrom, and maybe that's the way it's supposed to be. I don't know anymore. All I know is I have a moral benchmark in cosmic consciousness, so to speak, and I know that these things just don't seem appropriate at all. So that's just my take on it. But
not appropriate, but unfortunately, and I'm trying to think like the bad guy for a second, just to get inside their head. And if I was them, this is what I would do.
Well, they're doing it, and I'll tell you what. And I don't know. I love technology, and I can be nerdy like you wouldn't believe, but I don't believe in mind control, and I don't believe in controlling, manipulating people and torturing them with tactical hardware, such as what I went through, and of course other people with various covert programs. And I guess that's where I come from now.
No, I don't believe in it either. But what I'm saying is they don't care.
No, they don't. You're right. You're right. They don't.
And the fact that you would pay for it gives them, as I've heard the statement said, a legal out, because you're saying I'm taking it. We're telling you what it does to you. We're saying we're putting it in your body, and you're saying, give it to me. Just like we've accepted all the cell phones and everything else that we keep on us 24 hours a day that we cannot put down. It's the same thing. And so what is the idea? I don't see it happening anytime soon that we're all going to have this mass exodus of putting the cell phones down. But
no way.
No, it's not going to happen unless we catch wind of what's going on. And a lot of strong voices come out there and start showing people what's happening or what might be happening. But unfortunately, I think we're headed in a pretty bad direction.
Oh, I agree. And we have a question here from Jerry B. in the chat room. It says, Hollywood has controlled the narrative in a negative way for years. If there were more producers such as yourself presenting a positive, truthful narrative, would it be overlaid as a more positive outcome for society in general? Good question.
I might be. I mean, I hope so. It remains to be seen, really, because there have been thousands of people that have watched my film and responded to it. I don't really know the full result of it, and then other people like me, but I think we need some time to pull it off. I promise that I'm going to continue doing this. I won't become one of those guys because I have too much invested in my soul. I can't be one of those guys. I can't just become one of those. I could never be one of those guys. It's not within me to do it. I can go and make a bigger movie, get paid for it, but it has to be something that I care about. Otherwise, I'd rather not do it. I'd rather be dead, to tell you the truth, than to be stuck in a perpetual life just making garbage so I can buy more stuff, bigger house, more cars. How many cars do you need? How many pools do you need? How many vacations to Europe do you need? You don't need it. And so I don't care about that stuff. I care about having a pleasant existence, a good one, and doing something in this world while I'm here that counts. So if I could inspire maybe 2 more people to do this, I feel like I did something really good. And at the same time, me continuing my own mission, of course, if they were to start putting out different ideas, it would change things. But they're doing what they're doing for reasons right now, and a lot of it's about money.
I agree. Yeah, it's unfortunate that they can't create a positive change versus a negative, but it is. I think the more they keep people dumbed down and sort of slept to some degree with busyness, then the more control they have over the mass collective. If people are awakened to higher levels of consciousness, they tend to run more independently and not be swept away and manipulated as easily. At least that's my observation.
Well, if you pay attention to what happened in Now, let's take a look at the late 1960s and the 1970s in terms of music and movies. What you had were, even at the exploitation level, were very interesting a lot of the times, not all the time, very thoughtful, incredible, intelligent motion pictures and music, right?
Hmm.
Entertaining. Right now, we're at a complete and total lack of that. All you're really seeing in outside of some really good movies like The Revenant, and I like Tarantino, his stuff, it's great. I think it has a great subtext to it that later on he'll be discovered as he's considered a great director, but I think even more so down the road, like Hitchcock was considered like this really incredible director.
Hmm.
But and there are obviously a million other great filmmakers out there. But outside of stuff like that, really the way Hollywood is banking, or the bigger film industry is banking on everybody, uh, are these huge tentpole superhero movie things, okay? And they're doing that because they're trying to create an experience for you in the theater, where they can make more money, where you can't steal it, at home, and you can't have that experience, and you got to go see this in 3D with a vibrating chair, and who else knows what else is going to happen to you. And so that's what they're doing. And also it's kind of dumbed down. But what happened in the late 60s and the 70s was it went from these kind of bloated ideas that were done to death to movies like Mean Streets, Taxi Driver, Coming Home, and Apocalypse Now, and even Jaws, like stuff like that.
Hmm.
So what I really feel is going to happen, outside of Disney making more Star Wars movies, and trust me, I like those movies. I grew up with Star Wars, so I have nothing against it as long as it's done good.
Hmm.
But outside of that stuff, what you're probably going to see next, because if you believe in the powers that be, they are very smart and they know when balance needs to be thrown in. So I think, being that it's been absent for so long, that what we'll see are a lot of thoughtful, intelligent motion pictures being made, coming up, and being allowed to be made by these people, and some being made like renegades like myself, who are out there just doing whatever the hell I want to do,
Hmm.
and selling it directly to people, and you can't stop me. So there'll be people like me, and then there'll be the studios either hiring people like me or making a lot of these films, because that's what people want right now. I think if we see another Spider-Man movie, I'm going to puke. Like I love Spider-Man's great, but how many more it's just too much right now.
Hmm.
So I think they're starting to realize that we don't want this stuff anymore, even though people keep spending their money. So we're going to see a new age of music and movies. It's either that or they're going to attack us and wipe our minds out. So hopefully we'll get to have another 10 years of good, inspiring work, because it seems to have been the cycle. Like if you look at the 80s, you had a lot of bloated, big action movies, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone making the Rambo films and all these other movies. And then in the 90s, you had, Nirvana and all this other great music being made. And then movies like the independent film movement in the 90s and all that stuff. And then towards the end of the 90s, it started to get stupid again.
Hmm.
So it seems to be going in these cycles, and I think we're due for something very thoughtful as a whole, as something we recognize as a time period, as a new decade, as this period of time where we had great music and movies,
I
because we don't
agree.
have it right now.
Totally. Yeah, it's like they're regurgitating information and just stuff. It doesn't seem like it has any depth to it at all. And the music's not very good. I agree with you. I don't call it music anymore because it doesn't even sound like music to me. Not what I grew up with and not what I've ever listened to in the past.
No, no, same here. And no, there's nothing. There are a lot of great artists out there. What we're lacking right now are somehow this kind of American Idol mentality got thrust upon the public, and they're trying to categorize you and shape you into something. And what we used to have are better mediators.
Hmm.
So, what I suggest is, if you're a consumer and a lover of music and art and movies or anything, what you should do is seek these things out for yourself, because there's a lot of outlets for it, and then pass the word on as much as possible. And you become the mediator. You popularize these things. You get them out there to other people. And same way, because there are a lot of great bands and a lot of great music out there right now. I keep discovering them on websites like Bandcamp, or just even out there, just searching, like even Pandora Radio, you would find a like music, and like new bands would just pop up. And
Hmm.
so if you could pick out those bands, because some of those people are extremely talented and making great music that really touches me, put it out there, tell people about it, because these record labels are not going to help people anymore, and they're not going to sign people anymore, and not like they used to. And
Hmm.
so, and same with movies. If you see a great film somewhere, if you know of an independent filmmaker that's making something worth watching, spread the word, help them, because the problem is you have this. And again, like I am into the same stuff since I was a kid, but I disagree with the whole quote unquote geek culture being monopolized and monetized. It's a
Hmm.
joke, really. They took this idea that because we all love movies, then they put a label on it, which is something that used to be derogatory. Being called a geek wasn't a good thing.
Right.
And now they're trying to sell it to you, okay? And you took the bait. You're taking it because now you're waving a flag saying I'm a geek, and like you just bought into somebody's manipulation.
Hmm.
Say no way, Jose. Like you're not going to do this to me. Don't let them manipulate you. Go out there and change the world. Don't keep buying the same thing. They're going to give you Spider-Man 25 if you keep buying it, and your brain is going to fry.
Hmm.
Okay? Get into something interesting and spread the word about it. Otherwise, you're going to turn into a ball of jelly with eyes.
You're so right. You're such a good role model. Oh, thank goodness. We need more like you on the planet. There's no doubt about that.
Well, there's
Yeah.
only one me at the
I'll
moment,
tell
but
you
who
what. No, you're a
knows?
great inspiration, whether you realize it or not. And it's really important that this information gets out there and that we can communicate like this because it is true. People need to keep their original signatures and they need to keep their creativity and start getting interactive with their own lives and getting inspired independently. And you're right. It just gets this, like I said, it's a regurgitation, the same old programming over and over and over again. It just needs a flush. I swear it really does. So many different levels of whatever they're putting out over there. It seems to me like they recycle a lot of old classic films too. I don't know if you've caught that, but so many people, it's like they ran out of ideas, so they're trying to redo all these classic films. And I mean, I can
Yeah,
give
the
them credit for
Magnificent
it.
Seven.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like every
Again,
time I turn around, there's like an old film that was a classic. You couldn't even perfect on it, and they want to, redo it.
there's no reason for it. They're going to keep doing it too if you don't put some kind of protest in place. And I don't mean picketing in the streets. I mean, don't buy their stuff anymore. Don't demand something else. And then what you should do is, because they really are, this is the old joke. They want to make you think that the people they keep putting in front of you are the only talented people on this enormous planet. That's a joke. It's
Hmm.
not true. And the thing is, great art, even if you see a spark of greatness in something, don't put it down. Don't go, don't start calling out its flaws and writing to people about how bad their stuff is on the internet. If you see something good in there, say something good, point it out, because the idea is we used to have situations where artists or and trust me, this stuff is really important. Music, movies, art, all this stuff shapes our lives, right? It
Hmm.
really does in a way. Good literature.
Oh yeah.
So the idea is you need to nurture those people. You need to encourage them, like you good people do for me. I mean, I hear nice compliments on my stuff. I've heard other too, but not by people with much intelligence. Like I mean, I had a few of these jokers contact me, and I always kind of say to them, "Who are you? Why do I care about what you say? I'm a grown man. I have my own mind. I don't really give a damn about what you say." So it's like it's important that we bring positivity towards the people that are out there trying to inspire us. And I do this too. Look, it's Saturday night, yet another Saturday night where I'm working, and I'm okay with it. But it's I want to do this stuff. I want to try and inspire people somehow. I want to try and wake people up and remind them that they're capable of incredible things, and you don't need 20 executives standing by you with $20 billion. I mean, honestly, you can throw money at a film equipment all day. It's not going to make a good movie. And what did they spend? Like $1 billion on the last Avengers movie? Come
Hmm.
on. Is it that good? Because as a lover of film, I know it's not. It's
Hmm.
not a good movie. And if you had $1 billion, man, The movie I would make, I don't even know. I have no idea. I don't know what I would do with it.
It makes you wonder what they're doing with that billion. If it's all invested in the film or elsewhere, who knows? But
It's
yeah.
invested in advertising and marketing, a lot of it, but a
Hmm.
lot of it's invested in the picture. And this is no offense to the artisans that worked on the movie and created and worked so hard to create the characters and the artwork. But, you know, it's time that we, even if the Avengers was more powerful of a film, I'd be fine with it, but it's not, they're not powerful movies. They're just,
Hmm.
they don't say anything. If someone had the idea to, like, I'm making Bigfoot, but I'm trying to make something, and I'm going to make something very different and a completely fresh experience. Like, all right, for one example is Christopher Nolan's Batman movies. I thought they were heavy, they were good, they were serious, they were well made, and I felt that that was a great example of how you could take that genre and elevate it.
Hmm.
But I'm really bored by just about everything else that's being made in that world. Really
Hmm.
bored by it all. The worst thing to do in the world is be boring, especially when someone pays you $1 billion to be boring.
Right. I agree. Yeah, I rarely go to films. I mean, I just don't watch movies anymore because they're so mundane, and I just don't get anything out of it. And sometimes the dialogue and the narratives are so ridiculous. It's just everything is, yeah, it's real interesting to watch. It's kind of degrading. It seems like the more they have with their budgets, the less quality comes out sometimes. I'm not saying all people, but it seems like that a lot.
Well, yeah, because that singular vision, especially in those movies, there's no real, in my opinion, I can't see it as an artist in their work, as there's no singular vision. It gets muddled by a committee, and movies and music should not be made by a committee. It should be made by a person or a band or whatever, a good group of people that believe in each other,
Hmm.
and are not just trying to rake in the FU money. So it's, uh, you know, I I have hope. I have a lot of hope. But the thing is, I just want to remind people out there that if you're out there making this stuff, don't choose to do what everyone else is doing. Don't keep doing these recycled ideas. And if you have a saturated idea or a popular idea, do it like no one else has done before. That's just as good as coming up with something original. It's just as good. Maybe even better because you're reminding the world that these saturated and overdone subjects have never been done right, and this is the way to do it.
Right.
So,
Yep. Good
um,
advice.
but it's important because it works against the mind manipulation. It really does. To think for yourself and to be inspired really works against that stuff.
Hmm. Yeah, independent thought is huge. Especially, that's one thing I don't believe in delegating power, personal will onto something. And that's why I like to see less of people getting involved in just vegging out on television or whatever, and actually getting more interactive with their lives and rising above this simulation of life, so to speak, because we really are dealing with a simulation to some degree until they snap out of it.
It's going to keep getting like that. I'm telling you, it's just going
No,
to keep getting worse.
I'm
It's
on the
just going
wrong
to keep getting
planet.
worse.
I should be elsewhere. But it's true. There's just so much going on. But once you get a taste of what the higher consciousness is about, it's hard to downgrade into the false matrix, what I call the false matrix, because it's such an illusion to participate with it. And I can navigate anywhere, but I do see it for what it is, and I realize that more than anything, you're right, making a difference in the moment and being that multidimensional being and having a presence here, a divine presence, which permeates in you. I mean, your creativity and everything you have is a message and a depth to it. And you're so unique. And I'm not just saying this to you. I mean it. And
Oh, I
it's
appreciate it.
wonderful to have you on because you're a breath of fresh air in that industry because there's so much of the BS that goes on there and so much superficial behavior that when you get somebody like you on there who has depth, who has levels of multidimensional design, it's really significant. And this is what I want to cue people to. You guys can't live in a linear world. This is a multidimensional world, and we have to rise above some of these programs. And I understand, I get the technology thing, but we've got to snap out of that control mechanism because it will be the downfall.
Yeah, well, again, they put these ideas out there that you need to be a good little boy or a good little girl and follow the rules. And I don't mean, like I don't like disturbing anyone's day. I don't like anyone disturbing mine. I don't like giving anyone a hard time for no reason. I don't mean those rules. There are rules, in the world. You should boundaries. You should not cross, if you want to be a good, true person. But in terms of getting a movie made or something, those rules were set up to put fear in your mind. It's called the fear zone. It's a makeshift invisible barrier thrown in front of you to keep you from taking the next step. It's like a warning sign to put fear in your mind. Now, I've crossed several of those fear barriers over the past couple of years with my work, and I can tell you from personal experience that it's not, none of it is true. Let me be more specific. So I made my movie, and you're told by a bunch of people you must go through the festival circuit. Otherwise, no one's going to care about what you do. Well, I ended up reaching thousands of people around the world. And then they said, well, if you do that yourself, it's going to be a bad scar on you and no distributor is going to want you. I've had 10 distributors that wanted to put it out. Then they say, okay, well, then, no one's going to want to work with you in the industry. Really? I've been contacted by 4 different television networks. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm saying. Like, every fear barrier is false.
Right.
And it's going to benefit those people too, because the idea is that if we, some of these companies, if we work together, it could be a really great thing. But a lot of these people are out there it's a monopoly. It's about money, and it's to prevent you from having any spirit or any inspiration. Like, I just saw another article yesterday. Middle-class filmmakers cannot make any money to survive. Listen, folks, that is not true. That was put out there. It's disinformation. Mm-hmm. It was put out there to put fear in your mind, to stop you using all this wonderful technology to make a movie, because they don't want you to make a movie, especially a good one. If we can, probably so much better than they can right now, because they're caught up making their tentpole superhero movies. We don't need to make that junk. We can make incredible movies like they did in the 70s. Like, not repeat that, but do something of the now, say something about the world. And we're very capable of doing that now with the equipment that we have. So don't isolate yourself to a city like, unfortunately, Los Angeles, where you have so many boundaries and so many permits to even breathe over there. Mm-hmm. Go to, I'm in Michigan right now. I used to live in New York. Go somewhere, make your picture, and make it good, because that's up to you. And that's not money. Again, you can have $10 billion. It will not make you a good movie. It will not guarantee a good movie. The only thing that's going to make a good movie is you. So you can take 10,000 and make a good movie. You just have to figure out, okay, what can I fit within this budget? And the idea is you can inspire so many people on your own and realize that those barriers are just fear. They're little fear barriers that were thrown out there by the people who are trying to run the show, but they're losing their grip. So now's a great time, because the proverbial dragon has a soft spot in its armor, very soft spot. It's time to hit it,
I agree. Yeah, good movies raise the bar. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt.
And music. If you have a band, stick together, make something amazing. Make the music, be inspired. Don't repeat what you heard before. Don't make mindless stuff. Say something about the world right now, because there's so much to say. There's so much to talk about. Be a reaction. Inspire people. That should be your job. When you're creating art, your main responsibility is to inspire people and to be somewhat dangerous. Break some rules. Don't listen to people who tell you got to abide by the rules. That person, if you pay attention to what they're doing, it's absolutely nothing, and basically a big bag of wind who probably tries to put their nose up and puff out their chest and make themselves seem very important. You don't have to do that. Just go out and make something amazing, and people will come to it. They will. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. The spirit's drawn to that. The soul is drawn to that.
Yes.
There's no doubt about it. That's the idea behind it, is inspiration and awakening. Yeah. It's funny when you mentioned the permits to film, man. California's crazy about permits.
Yeah, I don't know why you would move, unless you're looking for a job in the industry. That's a great place to be. But I think if you're just an independent movie maker, that's the last place you should go without a movie that's getting attention. And even then, you should still stick around somewhere else. My heroes are George Romero, John Cassavetes, Martin Scorsese. I have other movie making heroes, but even Francis Coppola, Orson Welles. They were all independent movie makers,
Yeah. So it's really some real brilliant minds were here once on the timeline. Of course, I don't know where they are in what sector in the multiverse, but yeah, they've left a nice benchmark of information, and some beautiful talent has been here. That's the nice part of it. We really have had some inspiring people on the timeline. So I was going to ask you, what other types of phenomenon interest other types of documentaries or even films have you been interested in doing? Did you ever be interested in doing the Mothman or anything in that area?
Oh yeah, I mean, what is it? Mark Pellington did a movie on it. I like that movie, but I mean, any subject matter I'd like to tackle in a way that no one's done. Of course, I'm interested in doing the Mothman. I had this, well, I had that science fiction film I was telling you about, but I have this other idea that I've been working on called Spirit Chronicles, and it's this, it's about a haunting, but from the point of view of the inside of this, the perspective of a trapped soul over a 30-year period, and really trying to bring the audience into that through a great story, as to how this person got there and how this entity is kept in this place during a 30-year period. And hopefully, I was going to try and make it this year, but it's something that's going to require some money because we need to build some things. We need some people. I can't keep going on making these things by myself anymore. I need to get some help, and that's the reason why I'm, trying to elevate this a little bit. I mean, the budgets that I'm looking for are probably not even the craft service budget of most, moderately priced independent movies. So it's not a lot of money that I'm looking to raise.
Right. I like the sign. I like the name of that. It just sounds very etheric. It's just very cool. I hope you do something with that. Really, that's going to be good.
I can't wait to make that. Again, I only want to make things I'm inspired to make. I have other pictures that I'm writing. They all fall in the fantasy, science fiction, paranormal, or horror genre with really heavy concepts and social commentaries within it. So I that's what I'll be making forever. I think I have a lot of stories that I want to tell, and they're pretty solid. A lot of them have been rolling around in my mind for years.
Yeah, you have a great amount of information. There's no doubt. What comes to mind? I'm sure you're familiar with Super 8. That was one of my. I like that movie for some reason or another. I like the children in that film, and it kind of reminds me of the old days when people had more of a genuine kind of presence in life. I don't know what your take was on that.
I saw that in the theater when it came out. I thought it was fun. I thought it was J.J. Abrams basically just trying to, tap in the vibe of early, Steven Spielberg films.
Yeah.
But I know what you're saying. There was, a sense of wonder about the characters and what they were creating. And so that idea put out in the world is good because it inspires people to do things. We had I guess one of the most popular shows, and I don't watch too much television at all, but for a long time, that American Idol thing, and I don't know if it still is, it might be, I don't know, it's still a very popular thing. And they making you think that, oh, we're giving you peasants a chance. Listen, you have more of a chance making it on your own than making it through American Idol. I mean, and they're so regulated, and they're basically telling you cannot be original. You can't be, even some of the greatest pop artists of all time, one of which who just died, Prince, was a very soulful, creative genius. And they're not teaching you that in American Idol. They're teaching you to strip your soul away and do exactly what we tell you to do. And you're not allowed to have any grit, and you're not allowed to have any inspiration about you because we're not allowing you to. I think that idea was put out in the world, especially having that nasty guy sit there and put people down all day and try and mold and shape them in his mind. I mean, well, I've never heard him make any music, so how the hell is he going to know what to do?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So so we need to question things like this because they started making a lot of money and their pockets were being lined because more people kept watching those talent shows. And talent shows are great, but have better ones. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, I agree.
TV shows on conspiracy theories and paranormal ideas are fantastic. I love them. But the ones that are being made right now are just kind of like in this perpetual cycle of just hopefully we get another season and keep people watching. Well, folks, you gotta stop watching, because they won't keep making this stuff, or they're changing the format. Maybe, hey, if our Montauk show, and it looks like it's going to happen, gets on television, maybe we'll change the whole thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's what it takes. It takes like one show to change the whole deal.
It's a ripple effect.
Wow, yeah, everybody's in watching this show. We can't keep sending people out in the woods banging pots and pans, making duck calls, looking for Bigfoot anymore.
Well, it'll happen. Then they'll try to copy you. That's what happens.
Right, right.
Yeah.
But and then I'll just keep reinventing myself.
Yeah. No, it's good though. You're leaving a benchmark, and that's important. But I agree with you. I don't understand why people give their power to this illusion of people in fame and fortune when they're nobodies. Literally, they're just mainstream propaganda tools for the most part. I'm not saying all of them, but a great deal of them. And I think it's just entrainment. And once again, it's a form of mind control to basically, you have to raise the bar with yourself and be self-motivated and not let people, try to corral you into behaving or being part of a cookie cutter mentality or even in the industry. I mean, you can see what sells in the industry now, and just about all of them are kind of like just cookie cutter, in my opinion. I mean, I see them all, and sometimes you can't tell one from the other. So I do see
Right.
that. It's really
Yeah.
unfortunate
No,
because,
be
man,
fearless. Be
yeah,
fearless. If you're making a movie or you're making music or making art or whatever you're doing, you're making your show, be fearless. The show that we're having right now, again, and I said this to a couple of other folks that are running some of the, like in comparison to the larger, radio shows or I should say, broadcast in more places or whatever. These shows like your own are better. Because I'm also a consumer, so I love this stuff, and I would listen to this show before I would want to sit there and hang on just because a show has a name, some other show.
hmm
And the same goes with movies. It's like, just because this director is making a movie, he better do a really good job. He's getting paid enough to do it. I mean, man, I get paid whenever I make money. I mean, I've been working full time for 15 years at this and got paid very little. And I still put in every bit of ambition that I have into it. And it's exhausting. But
hmm
imagine if I got paid a fraction of what some of these jokers get paid. You better believe I'm working even harder to make something great.
right.
It's going to, and it's sad that the folks that you're giving your money to are not applying themselves enough to give you something that at the end of the day makes you feel incredible. I think, in fact, a good deal of people have lost touch with what incredible truly feels like. Like good movies and good music change your life. Ask yourself a question. When was the last time you went to a theater and walked out and your life was changed? There were powerful films being made at one point. I mean,
hmm
think about what it was like to walk into Apocalypse Now on opening night and walk out.
Right.
Mind is changed. Things change inside of you because of that experience. So that's the kind of thing we need to do again. And
hmm
you can do that with a situation with two actors in a house. You just have to have the imagination to come up with whatever that story is going to be, or whatever that music is going to be. You can make now with one person or two or three people in a room with a computer and do incredible work with it and be inspired, or in a garage or whatever, because that's where great music, great movies were always made by the people who are out there experiencing life, not committees and not lawyers and not these big bloated, conglomerates.
That's so true. Couldn't have said it better. There's no doubt about that. Well, we're getting ready to wrap this up in we have about 7 minutes plus or minus here, but give everybody a rundown insofar as how to contact you, reach out to you, how to participate with the films, or do whatever they need to do to purchase a copy. And let's just give them a rundown on how to get in touch with you.
Sure. I mean, you could go to my website for Montauk Chronicles is montaukchronicles.com. And you can see the trailer on there for the movie. And, there are a bunch of, I guess there's a good collection of podcasts on there and radio shows and information. And you can order the film, the Blu-ray or the DVD, and they have a lot of extras on them. So you could see some insight onto how I made the thing. And in terms of Bigfoot, again, I'm offering some interesting contributor rewards and situations. And there's a variety. If we started at, $2 basically. So if you want to get on board and you want to check it out, go take a look at GoFundMe.com/Bigfoot the movie, and you can contact me through either of those methods too. And if you feel like sending me a question or just saying hello, feel free.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's just wonderful to have you on tonight, Christopher. I can't thank you enough for joining us. You're just such a nice blessing and such a genuine soul. I've said that to you before, but it really is refreshing to have
Thank
you on
you.
tonight. It really
You
is.
too. Thank you very much,
Yeah,
Celeste.
you're just smooth. You're like a nice fluid. I don't know. You're just nice energy. That's all there is to it. Now,
Oh, I appreciate that.
well, working on your Bigfoot film, I was going to ask you real quick. Where do you film?
So far, I was shooting in a place called Foley Swamp in northern Michigan, which is one of the nation's hot spots for that stuff. And then I was shooting in the mountains surrounding Ogden, Utah,
Ooh.
snow-covered mountains in the winter. And now I found an incredible location out here in Michigan again. We're starting with the Theodore Roosevelt Bauman story, which is a famous story that Roosevelt wrote in his memoirs, The Wilderness Hunter, about a frontiersman that he met later in life, or earlier in his life, but later in the frontiersman's life, who talked about an incident where him and a friend were stalked for 3 nights by this creature. They shot at it, the thing retaliated, and lo and behold, killed his friend in the end of it. But I want to shoot that interpretation. We found a wonderful location here in Michigan. When you're shooting a movie, you want to make sure it's accessible. So basically, there's this incredible set of texture and trees and landscapes within the center of this nature preserve, and surrounding it is a road, so we can get everything accessible to where we need to shoot. And it's representative of deep wilderness for the scenes that we need, and it's perfect. So we're going to be shooting it here.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, and that's another thing. You have to be inspired and have fun while you do it, and work hard at the same time.
Right. So I know I probably can't ask you this, or maybe I can, but are you going to have somebody in like a suit to portray this Bigfoot, or is it just going to be?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you are.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm talking to 2 guys right now. One is an enormous guy. He's actually a wrestler, and again, the way we're going to see it, because I've been speaking to several different makeup artists. One is a really great makeup artist, Tate Steinzek, and at the very least, he's consulting for the makeup on this film. It's going to be a practical effect. It's never going to look jokey. It's always going to be portrayed in a proper, intelligent way.
Excellent.
So, man in a suit, but man in a suit that will hopefully create the illusion of Bigfoot.
Well, thank you, Christopher. We're out of time here. I want to thank you again. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and stay tuned for Shiny Side Out with David, Dondre, and Becky coming up next to sail you into the night from down under, as they always do with their fabulous show. Once again, Christopher, thank you. It's been an honor and a pleasure, and take care, and see you next week, everybody.
Likewise, thank you.
Thank you.